What's going on, guys? Super Insane 18 here, and today I am bringing you my second place Yu-Gi-Oh! Day Tearlaments deck profile. If you watched the Sword Soul deck profile that I did the other day for first place, you'll know that I said I have a little bit of spice in this deck, so we're gonna go ahead and show you guys that. Don't hold your breath, it's nothing too spicy, but definitely something you guys haven't seen before, so let's go ahead and show you guys the build. Now, sadly, only first place gets the Yu-Gi-Oh! Day map, but I did get this field center here, so I mean, there is that, but I'm not complaining. Taking second place at a Yu-Gi-Oh! Day tournament is definitely a good achievement, and it was a lot of fun, so let's show you guys the build. We're going to start off with the standard lineup of Tearlaments. That is going to be 3 Merly, 3 Havness, 3 Shiren, and then of course our 2 Rhino Heart. You definitely don't need Rhino Heart at 3, it never really comes up. This is just the standard and perfect ratio, I don't really need to explain much about it. But then on to the Ishizu cards. We are playing 3 copies of Keldo and 3 copies of Madura. This is just super important because Tearlament is still the best deck, at least for another week or so, until we get Kashtira. So you want to make sure you have the maximum amount of shufflers just to make sure that you can interrupt your opponent if they are playing Tier as well. Not to mention, just a lot of decks in general revolve around their graveyard, so being able to get rid of their grave resources is definitely very important. But don't forget you can also shuffle your own back into the deck, meaning that you pretty much have infinite recursion, and I think that's just pretty good. We are only playing 1 copy of Agido. I know that people are on the fence and all over the place about what the correct number of Agido is. I have found that 1 is what works perfectly for me, just because it's there if you need it, and it's, you know, obviously it's the worst of the Ishizu, so you don't want to see it that much. But then we are also playing 3 copies of Kelbeck, arguably the best one, and I feel like that's pretty standard for Ishizus other than the Agido. Some people play 3, some people play 1, some people play 0, so that one really just comes to personal preference. And to finish off the fairies, we are actually still playing the 1 copy of Herald of the Orange Light. Now, I know a lot of people have cut this, but this card has come in so unbelievably clutch for me that I just can't justify cutting it, at least not yet. Yes, it's at 1, yes, you're likely not going to see it, but just when you do have it and it matters, it's super important. That actually happened in my round 5 at Yu-Gi-Oh! Day. The only reason I won was because in game 2 I opened up both Herald and Kelbeck, and I was able to negate a monster effect after I had already gammaed my opponent, so I essentially had 2 negates, and it just really let me pop off because I had the mill 5 off the Kelbeck, and it let me get in there, so I really can't justify cutting it. Then we are still playing 6 Bystials with 3 Magnemut and 3 Druis Worm. This is definitely not going to be standard for much longer because of Kashtira. For those of you that don't know, Kashtira is a deck that comes out in Photon Hypernova, which is pretty much built specifically to counter this deck, and none of them are lights or darks. So playing the Bystials is no longer going to be good, so we're going to have to see how the deck evolves after the Photon Hypernova is released, which is, the sneak is in 3 days time from when I'm recording this, which means the set is out in a week and a half. So yep, there's that. And then this is the start of the spice. We are playing 1 copy of Double or Nothing. Now, if you know, you know. If not, we're going to get back to it later because I'm going to explain it with the extra deck. But Double or Nothing is it does something pretty cool for you, and I'll tell you guys what. Then we have 1 copy of Instant Fusion and 1 copy of Terraforming, just pretty standard. Onto the 2 ofs, we are still playing 2 copies of Triple Tactics Talent. If you've been on the channel for a while, you've heard me rant about Forbidden Droplet and how I don't like playing 3 copies of Droplet because I always brick on too many copies of it, and I feel the same way about Triple Tactics. Is whenever I play it, I always brick on too many copies, so by playing 2, I feel like it is the personally correct amount for myself, being able to see it when I need it but not brick on it in other hands, so yep. Then we have 2 copies of Tearlaments Scream, 3 copies of Primeval Planet Perlerino, and that is it for the spells. Finishing things up, we do have the 1 copy of Salik and the 1 copy of Crime. Now, not a lot of people are still playing Crime, but I think that Evenly has been seeing a rise in play, so I would rather have the Crime and not need it than need the Crime and not have it, just because you are able to shut down an Evenly, but not just that, having an Omni Negate is really nice as well, so that's going to be it for the main deck at 40 cards. Let's show you guys the extra. Now onto the extra, it's going to be relatively standard except for the spice for that double or nothing, but we will talk about that when we get there. We are playing the typical one of each of the Tearlament fusions. We've got Kit, Roll, and Kaleido. Now this is going to change with Photon Hypernova because the Kashtira deck is going to be able to rip cards out of your extra deck, so you are going to want to play multiple copies of some of these cards, such as Kit Kalos, because if they banish your one Kit Kalos face down, it's pretty much bad news. So I will bring you guys an updated deck list once we have all of the Photon Hypernova cards out, but again, this is just what I used to take second at the Yu-Gi-Oh! Day tournament. We are playing one copy of Mudragon of the Swamp and one copy of Predaplan Dragos Tapelia. We did unfortunately have to cut Garura to make space for the spice. I felt that the Mudragon of the Swamp was a little bit more important because it allows you to make rank 4s, so you're able to go into things like Abyss Dweller in the mirror match, you're able to go into things like Baguska if you end up getting shut down, and more importantly, you can use it to go into my spice. So now we are playing the one copy of Abyss Dweller for our XYZs, and then the spice is going to be one copy of Utopia Double and one copy of Utopia. Now, for those of you that don't know how the double or nothing engine works, essentially you can turn any two level 4 monsters into a 10k beater, because what's going to happen is you're going to use the effect of Utopia Double or Nothing, which is going, or Utopia Double, which is going to add the double or nothing from your deck to your hand, and then you would rank it up into the Utopia and double its attack. So Utopia now becomes a 5,000 attack monster. Now you would declare your attack with the Utopia and use its own effect to negate its attack, because what the quick play spell Double or Nothing does is if a monster's attack is negated, you can let that monster attack again and double its attack during the damage calc. So if your opponent has anything 2,000 or less on the field, that is instantaneous game, and the reason that I decided to try this out was because at my locals, which Yu-Gi-Oh! Day at the end of the day is just mostly a locals tournament, there's a lot of people that hate Tearlament and therefore are playing Shifter and other ways to prevent me from having a graveyard. So in those scenarios, what I can do is I can just put 2 4s on board and swing for a massive amount of damage, especially when you look at the decks that are playing Shifter, things like Sprite, where they leave a 1400 Sprite Elf on field. So as long as they don't have something like the Pixies, it's pretty much just a free game, and it won me 2 of my rounds. So that's why I felt like it was really cool to show you guys. Like I said, it's a little spicy, but not too spicy, so there you guys have it. And then the last rank 4 we are playing is the one copy of Baguska. We do play a couple of rank 6s. We have Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal, and Wallow. These are just kind of for the Bestials. Beatrice will let you proc your Tearlament fusion, or your Tearlament effect monsters to fuse during either player's turns. Like in a really bad scenario where you're completely shut down, you can use the Beatrice on either player's turn to do so. And then Wallow, funny enough, is the out to Avermax, because it pumps up all your monsters by 100 for every card in your opponent's graveyard. A lot of times you can out an Avermax just by having this on board and having a normal summon. Actually happened to me against my round 1 opponent. He had an Avermax, and there were enough cards in the graveyard that my normal summoned Merly had enough attack to run over the Avermax, so that's how I was able to win that game. And the last XYZ is going to be Zeus. Zeus is also really cool, especially with the spice that we have, because even if they have something that's more than 2,000, you can still swing for a ton of damage with your Utopia Double and then slap the Zeus on top of it, so just kind of standard to have. And then ending things, we have 3 links. We've got Dark the Dark Charmer, Sprite Elf, and Sprite Sprend. These are just the utility. Dark is able to reborn any of your opponent's dark monsters, mostly Bestial Magnemite, because if you reborn their Magnemite, you'll be able to use its effect to search during your end phase, and since you're milling your opponent's deck, the chances of them having it engrave are very, very high. The Sprite Elf is to prevent targeting, but also resummon your Merly during your opponent's turn, allowing you to mill 3 and potentially fuse. And the Sprite Sprint is a last-ditch effort to send a Merly to the graveyard just so that you can fuse in a very bad case scenario. So there you guys have it, that is going to be the extra deck. And there you guys have it, that is going to be my second place Yu-Gi-Oh! Day deck profile with a little bit of spice. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. I know that everybody is sick of Tearlaments at this point, myself included, but right now it is the best deck, so it is the deck that I am going to continue playing until something else is proven to be better. Hopefully that is Kashtira, but I think that Kashtira really only has a good matchup against Tearlament, and an okay matchup against everything else, but we'll have to see, so you guys know the deal. Make sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, like, comment, share with friends, maybe consider supporting me on Patreon. For just $1, you can support the channel in a way that I would never be able to tell you how much I fully appreciate. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.